Okay, now what am I doing?
You just,
I see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
He's been working on this. How long to be live? Oh, I guess, is it working now?
Yeah.
So people could look and watch me. They're
Yeah,
seeing
that's
my
what
face.
I'm testing right now.
Okay. Anyway, read those. After you've watched them and all, take notes of any questions you don't understand about timelines, anything. Because those are questions you want to bring to contracts class so that you usually the class here is bigger, so that people are oh, this happened this week in this country. So you start learning from other people's issues out there so you kind of get an idea of what happened. Do you have questions?
From 22A, I'll come. Just give me 5 minutes. You can keep
So
talking.
we'll talk about that when you're done. See, that's how you want to talk about financing. So we'll talk about that one. Timelines. Do you understand how the timeline? Okay. Well, now, when you submit an offer, it's always good 48 hours till 9 p.m. Just only if you put no expiration. If you say this offer expires at 5 p.m. today, it's only good to 5 p.m. But if you don't, it's 48 hours. Form 17. This is the only exception, and that is client signs Form 17 days. This is the only timeline of all your timelines. Generally, you're signing a Form 17. That's why it's separate. So you sign it separate. They could walk away saying, we don't like Form 17, clear up till Wednesday. I mean, sorry, yeah, Monday, no, Saturday would be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So they could walk away through Tuesday, 9 p.m. Okay? That's the only timeline. You just count the 3 days. Once you're a mutual contract, anything that is 5 days less, you only count business days. Only. No weekends, no holidays. If you're and you have timelines of 6 days or more, then your timeline would count every single day, including the weekend, including the holiday. But if it's like 7 days and that seventh day lands on the weekend or the holiday, then it moves forward to the next business day. If ever you have a question about what is a legal holiday, the legal holidays are the ones that are recognized by the Northwest MLS. You can always call them. They usually put out an email prior to a holiday saying, hey, everybody realize this is a holiday. But like next week, because Christmas falls on Sunday this year, they're recognizing Monday the 26th as a legal holiday, so that wouldn't be counted. Okay? So it's important you know your timelines at all times when you're in contract because it can make or break you as far as protecting clients' earnest money and letting them get out of the contract early. So all timelines begin always the day after given. So if your mutual acceptance is on a Sunday, day one of the timelines would be Monday. Then if ever they respond to you and let's say, here's your response, we get it to you Wednesday, and you have 3 days reply, Thursday would be day one. You don't count the day they send you the response. You start counting the next day. Okay? Are we understanding that? Closing date can only be on a business day. Possession date could be any day. that's one of those things you will always negotiate. Generally, people close and get possession at closing, generally. But in these times of multiple offers, many times the buyer who wins will say, yes, we're going to buy this, and yes, seller, we know you want time to have that cash so you can go buy a home, not being contingent now, so we'll give you 30 days free rent to live in your house. So then possession would be 30 days later, so you would be doing that in the contract. You'd say, here's your close date, possession 30 days later, and then you'd have a 65B in there showing the rent back, and you would put in there 0 because the buyer wants it, so they're just saying, yeah, stay 30 days. So that happens. Occasionally, I do not recommend this if you're the listing agent to ever do it or allow it. But occasionally, a buyer is allowed to move in to a house prior to the day of closing. Then they would still do, I think it's 65A. And on that one is possession prior to closing, and then it's written in there the agreement allowing them to do that. Here's the problem. You allow a buyer to move in, let's say 5 days before, because whatever the reasons are. Then let's say last minute this buyer can't close on their loan, therefore the deal falls apart, but now you have the buyer living in the house of your seller and you want him out. But now the issue is it becomes a tenant issue. They would be protected under the laws of tenant. So it's not a good idea to let a buyer move in prior, just for those reasons. Okay? If you have a buyer who does a rent back to a seller, and now it's a 30-day rent back, and I would suggest strongly you be in communication with the list agent throughout it, going, hey, if they've found a place, are they in contract? We're 10 days out. We just want to verify that they are going to be out on this day, because sometimes sellers won't move out. And it's not that it happens that often. It has never happened to me. But I do know cases where it has happened, where the seller sold the house, but their brother lived in it. And they said, well, my brother needs 30 days to get out. Well, 30 days were up. Guess what? Brother wasn't out of the house. He's like, no one told me. So then it was very like, well, but they need to move in. Well, I don't have a place yet. Well, you need to find a place. Well, I'm working on it, but it might take a few weeks. No, get on it. Anyway, it was very tense. And in the end, the brother did move out. But then when he moved out, he took all the appliances because he said they were his, not the seller's, which was another argument, of which buyers finally said, okay, we'll just buy appliances. So, and what's really hard in that situation for you as an agent, you really can't do much of anything, because when that contract closed 30 days prior, you are done. They are now in a landlord-tenant relationship from that day for 30 days. And they will come to you and say, well, I need to get them out. You got to help me, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to have a conversation with them and explain that, unfortunately, this falls under landlord-tenant laws, and you need to talk to a lawyer who understands tenant laws, because you're going to have to work with them and make sure you follow exactly what the tenant law says to have an eviction. Well, it's not about legal encroachment. What it is you have two things. One, you negotiated with the buyer seller that they would close on this date, and that the buyer said, I will allow you to live here in this house now after closing so many days. There will be a form, it's 65B, or 65B is what you would use. That would be part of the contract. And it says basically, but 65B, they're no longer a buyer seller on it. They're listed on there as tenant landlord, and they have 30-day rent agreement, right? Well, now you're within the 30 days, and they're saying, we're not ready to move out. Or, oh, the house we were buying didn't close, it fell apart, so we have nowhere to go, so we need to stay here a couple more months. And your buyer's like, wait, I need to get in there. And they're going to call you and say, you need to get them out. And it's hard because you are not responsible to help them get that tenant out. Yeah, and that was in that circumstance. They did have checked these appliances stay. But here's the problem. Again, you had a tenant who left and took the appliances saying that they owned them. They were not the sellers. They're calling you, screaming at you. Well, guess what? They're the landlord. If they want to go after it, they need to go after the tenant. There's nothing you can do about it at that point. Once your contract closes and you're paid out, you can be there emotionally for them, but you can't go negotiate on their lease and all that. All you can do is say you need to talk with a lawyer who understands tenant laws and get their advice on how to handle this. You could call the listing agents and go, hey, they just took all these appliances that you said. Well, guess what? The seller might say, well, that's too bad. Bye. We got our money. That closed 30 days ago. We're done. That's between you and the tenant. See? So just because contracts say things doesn't mean that people will always follow the contract. You need to understand when you can negotiate it and when it's past your expertise. Because the one thing you all have to remember is we are not a lawyer. We cannot practice law. We're not even supposed to be writing things into contracts, even though we do. But when you do write things in the contract, be very clear. Don't just think you're going to write, 2 pages of blah, 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 because you would be definitely practicing law, and if something went bad, they would sue you. And this isn't to scare you, but there will be times where it'll be around earnest money arguments, and they'll be like, hey, I get the earnest money, right? Because I have a financing addendum, and it says right here I get my earnest money back, right? And an agent will say, Billy Moran back, oh yeah, absolutely, you're going to get your earnest money back. Seller then comes in and says, no, we're not going to give you the earnest money back. We don't care that you have a financing addendum. We feel you broke contract over on this part. And then your client's going to come back and go, wait a minute, you told me I'm getting my earnest money back, blah, blah, blah. Any kind of serious disputes start coming up like that, you need to learn the following language and remember this verbatim. Whenever you're touching on anything tricky, you need to say, well, to the best of my knowledge, remember that, to the best of your knowledge, I think the contract's very clear that you should get your earnest money back on the financing addendum. But if the seller refuses, I can never say how a court of law will rule on it because I'm not a lawyer. And if that happens, you will need to get the advice of a lawyer. That protected you because you said you were not a lawyer, get advice, and you said to the best of your knowledge, so you're not an expert. A lawyer, if you didn't say that, and let's say it goes to law and things get ugly, and then suddenly buyer loses their earnest money, doesn't get it back, but they'll say their attorney, my agent said, absolutely, I get this back. The lawyer might go, well, we might have a case there to get your earnest money back because that email you just showed me looks pretty much like they're acting like they're the expert in this and that you should rely on them as the expert. And obviously they were practicing law, which they're not supposed to. So let's go sue them now. That's why you have to learn about how to phrase that. Because that whole phrase in that sentence was, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm not a lawyer, and you need to seek the advice of a lawyer because they will know better on how a court may rule. That protects you. Okay? So remember that one. And it's not to scare you. I haven't been sued. Not all agents. A lot of agents work their whole life without lawsuits, but it does happen. So we all need to be aware. Okay? You had a question about 22A.
Right. And so this is going to be a new construction. So my gut says that it's quite low. What am I, as an agent, what sound advice can I offer my clients? How
Well, first of all, you have 22A in there, right? Already signed?
I'm planning
Okay.
so
If they sign 22A, your client's protected right away if the appraisal comes in low. Because page 2 of 22A says very clearly if the appraisal comes in low, seller has three options. They can lower the price to the appraised value and you close. They can argue the price with the appraiser, and if they choose, order a new appraisal. If the new appraisal comes in higher, then that's the price that the bank will lend on. If it's still below the value, though, then it comes down to the final option for a seller is they go back to the buyer and try to negotiate. Either they lower the price to the new appraised value, or buyer seller come to some sort of agreement like, look, I'll lower half of that if you put the other half into purchasing because you want the house back. That happens sometimes. Or the buyer can just say, you have to lower the price or I walk away. And if they don't at that point, then the buyer would get their earnest money back. Okay? So if you have 22A, you're protected there on the appraisal. And you said it was green construction?
it was green.
Do you know, like 4-star, 5-star? It'll be 5-star?
Built green.
Okay, 5-star built green. You need to try to find other built green homes to compare to but appraisers know built green homes cost more to build. The materials are more expensive, um, installation, all the permitting, everything is more. So 5-star built green homes are always going to be priced higher than a home that's not built green, that has same square footage and built same year.
Got it.
So an appraiser will know that too.
And so when
You can hire any inspector. They're not there to validate if it's built green or not. The only ones that will give it the certification of built green is all the inspectors who come out through the building process verifying, yes, you followed these steps. That is done correctly. And they have multiple inspections throughout the building process, saying they're meeting the standards to get to level 5. That has nothing to do with your inspection. Okay? So you bring in the inspector you want to inspect that.
and also one of our licenses those documents also
Yeah.
was built in 1980. They tore it down. So
Yeah.
who knows what bulldozers.
Well, and the fact there's a 1918 home above, who knows if they just didn't connect to the old sewer line? It may not even be a new sewer line out to the street, because sometimes you'll get homes being built and they'll do a brand new sewer line out of the house and then they'll connect in the yard somewhere to the old sewer line and go from there. Sometimes, or sometimes they'll put in a whole new one. It's always, you always want to do a sewer scope. New construction or resale. I do, because even new construction, they can have installed it incorrectly. There could be breaks. Construction over the top of it afterwards might cause breaks. You don't know. So it's a good idea, because I know a lot of agents are like, oh, it's brand new sewer line. We don't need to inspect it. Well, like in your case, when you tell me, oh, there's an old home here, well, that old sewer line's there. And if they feel like it's good enough, they can connect to it.
normally going to uncover that? Just monitor using a scope.
But they will.
Okay.
When they're monitoring and they're going through their scoping the sewer line, they can tell if it's new, they can tell if it's old. They're watching the sewer line from the interior, okay? They know if it's old clay pipe. They know if it's cement. They know if it's galvanized steel. They know the diameter of the sewer line. That little scope's going to monitor if there's breaks anywhere, if there's root intrusion, if something's smashed and they can't get past it. So they'll know all that stuff for you. All right? Did that answer your question? 22A. All right. Are you guys having any questions right now popping into your head? That's fine. That's okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Mhm. Okay. Okay, how to do escalation clauses. Well, before we get there, let's talk about escalation in general and multiple offers. In this market, and you have a buyer, you always want to educate your buyers at the beginning. One, go out, show my houses once or twice, but then say, hey, I want to send you an email just to give you an idea of what all these buyers are thinking in writing their offers in a multiple offer situation. It's important that you understand it. I'm not saying you need to do it, part of it, all of it. You may say you don't want to do any of these, but you need to understand your competition. And I want to send it out to you now because I want you to read it, ask questions, so that when we do get into writing an offer, if it's multiple, you will be able to make the decision then, feeling that you're comfortable because you've had time to evaluate it. And some of those questions around what you may or may not do, you should have serious conversations with your lender. And then I have a template that just says, in multiple situations, here's what buyers are doing. I just slap an email on it and boom, I send it out to them and they read it. Trust me, you can email me. I'll give you the copy of the template so you have it. You want to send that out to begin their search for a home just because it will save you time and energy when you come to write an offer because you're not having to explain right then, oh, we have to get an offer together in the next 5 hours. Do you want to waive this? Well, or do you want to waive this? You're putting a lot of stress on your buyer, and they might be feeling like I can't do anything. I can't make these decisions now. I don't have time to talk to my lender. By saying that ahead of time, they're preparing themselves and they're getting answers. So they feel confident about if they want to waive financing or not, or do a pre-inspection or not. In writing the escalation addendum, then you can, at that point, you can talk to them. First of all, you call the agent whenever you find out their house is, even if they're interested. I always tell them, if you're thinking this might be the house, I want to know. Because I want to call the agent and I want to know, is anybody else interested in your house? If your remarks say, we're reviewing offers on this day, I want to know, has anybody done pre-inspections? Are you getting calls about the house? Is your buyer, is your seller willing to look at an offer if it's really good before the review date? Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, they can say, we have an agent that says they're going to write an offer. It should come in the next 12 hours. If you want to write, write. So what are you going to do with that information? Is it true? We don't know. It could be. Are they bluffing, trying to get us to write? Could be. You're never going to know for sure. That's why you have an escalation addendum. That protects you because the escalation addendum will say in it that the only way the price can get escalated up is if you show us there was a real offer out there that was not contingent on anything, that was willing to escalate the price up. And they have to show that to you when they sign off with you and say, we're going to raise the price. Figuring out how high to escalate. Well, first thing I would do is when I'm helping them to, even to write an offer, I always do a price opinion. I always do a CMA of saying, here's what I think the home's worth, if it's priced right or not. But when you're in competitive markets, well, yes, I can show you in the CMA they priced it right. But I'm also going to show you in the CMA, but here's homes in the neighborhood that have been closing the last 90 days. And you can see, oh, they all were priced about the same price as this home, but they're all closing here. So now that you see that they're closing higher, you know that these are multiple offers. You're probably going to be multiple offer. So you need to be telling them, if you want this house, we need to escalate as high as these homes, or even better, let's escalate a little bit higher. Because if everyone's going the same range and we're a little bit higher, it's a good chance we may be the ones who will get the house. And then you can say, I can't guarantee appraisal, but I feel pretty good. It probably will appraise in because look at all these homes that have closed at that value. And the appraisers will factor in multiple offers. So let's say now they've agreed. It's a 450 house. They said we'll escalate to 500. Well, then I would say, okay, we can do 500, but figure other buyers are going to be thinking just like you today. And those buyers are probably thinking 500 also. Maybe we should go 510, just so that we can be above all those that just go to 500. I mean, that's something you might want to consider. Then you have to talk to them about what increment do you want to pay over the next best price. I have reviewed contracts that newer agents send me, and they're writing up on a $800,000 house, and they're going to escalate it up to $900,000, and they're doing it in $1,000 increments. That's a joke. You've got to think about what price point are you in. People who are willing to escalate $1,000 over the next best price are shopping for homes that are $250, $280, $300. They don't have a lot of money, so they got to be really tight. You'll see that. This other person that was in 800 may go to 900, and I'll pay $1,000 over the next one. They're not even going to look at you as being a better offer of the next one. They're going to look at you both and say, same offer. All they have to do is say to the other one, hey, we like your terms better, but they're willing to pay $1,000 more. Will you pay us $1,000 more? Sure, no problem. We will. I mean, the higher the price point, the higher the increments, folks. People need to think about that. I mean, you're in the 500,000 price point. People are thinking $5,000 to $10,000 price jumps. You want to leave enough money on the table that a seller's going to go, wow, that's $10,000. That's a lot of money. I don't want to leave that money on the table. Let's seriously look at this person's offer and see, do their terms meet our what we like? Because if they like your terms and you're $10,000 over, you're probably going to get a phone call and the agent's going to start talking to you. But if your terms are crappy, then they might look at the next one and say, well, their terms are better, but this is $10,000 more. Well, maybe we can get them to match it and come up $10,000. Well, $10,000 is a lot more serious thought for someone to suddenly go on, because that buyer might be, this is all I can do. But if you're at $1,000 in that price point, they'd sure as hell get the house. But if you have really great terms and you're at $10,000 over, there's a good chance they won't even consider the other people. They will just talk to you. Because one strategy, and it works sometimes for me, and sometimes it's backfired. I've had a client who said, I will only go to 500, but they're really pre-approved for 750,000. Well, in a multiple, I'm always going to say, I want your pre-approval letter to say you're approved as much as it is. If it's $2 million, I want $2 million. If it was just us, no one else, I would say, we want their pre-approval to say exactly the price we're offering. We don't want to let them know that you actually could go up to 2 million. But in a multiple, we want to say, yeah, we're going to escalate from 8 to 9, but you can see we could go clear up to 2 million. We're a great buyer. Please consider us seriously that they will do what they have to do to get it. And if there is an offer that's just a little more than us, please come back. We'll change our terms. We'll pay more if that needs to be the case. Well, you can say that, but now if I was the other person who wrote the really nice offer that was only 10,000 over, but had like waived everything, they may just say, okay, let's go with them. And then they call me and say, Eric, you didn't get it. And I go, really? What happened? And they say, yeah, we just went in because we really liked that they waived everything. And, you know, they were like 10,000 over. And I go, but why didn't you call me? I showed you we could go way higher. We had waived everything. We would have matched it or even paid more. Well, my seller basically felt that everyone put their best foot forward, and they didn't want to get in this like bidding war, so they just went the other one, and you lost out. So sometimes that strategy I was trying to explain works, and you get the call and you can go up. Sometimes it backfires, and they just tell you what they just said. Well, we went the other one; they did their best foot. So you got to let a buyer know in a multiple offer, they got to go in with everything laid out on the table. You don't hold back. It's not because at that point they're not going to negotiate. The seller's looking at all offers and going, first thing they're doing is saying, who's waived the most? Who's escalated the highest? Oh, these three escalated the highest. Okay, let's just look at these three. Now let's see what they waived. Okay, these two waived everything. This one waived only inspection. All right, let's slide that one out because if these guys waived inspection, financing, appraisal, well, they're totally locked in, and if it doesn't appraise at value, we get to keep their money unless they make up the difference. So now they're looking at these two. That's how they're narrowing them down. Sometimes it can be emotional for a seller too, because it's like maybe it's an old couple, they're retiring, they've raised their children there, they've lived there 35 years, and now they're going into assisted living. Letters to sellers due on resale sometimes work to your advantage because they get an emotional connection. Because they might like the way your letter came into them, that they're a young couple, they have a 2-year-old, they're having their second child, they really want the neighborhood because they've been looking at the schools, they love that they already see children playing, and they love the home and what they've done with it, and that they can just move in and continue to keep caring for it like they did. Sometimes they get emotionally attached, and even though you're not the best offer, they might come back to you. Because that's happened to me where I've had agents call and say, Eric, you're not the best offer, but they really like your buyer from the letter. So they really don't need their money. They're going to assisted living. Will you guys just match this top one? We'll just show you the offer. And my buyer was like, sure, we'll do it. But it was the letter that got us in because we weren't the best offer. So you got to really think of multiple offers in many different ways. And the other one is always be nice to the listing agent from the get-go. Always be nice. You had questions, or you wanted to say something, Robbie?
Two questions. One is when you come up with offers, seller what forces a buyer to go out or
Seller can sell to whoever they want. Just because you offered more doesn't mean they have to take your offer. Seller can pick whatever offer. They've got 5 offers. Offer 4 they like, they sell the offer 4. And unfortunately, the other 4, you got to go away. It's not like you're going to go back and sue them for your commission or something. It's just go back to your buyer and say, okay, you lose in a multiple. First thing you do is when I send over the offer, I'll send it to both your emails. I'll always say, hey, can you let me know when you're going to sit with your client? And then I'll follow it up with a text and say, hey, I just want to verify you got my offer. Just send it over. Can you please let me know when you're going to sit down with your client so I can tell my client to be ready with their phone if you have any questions. and that they say 7 o'clock, then you let your client know. They say they're going to sit at 7, so have your phone ready in case we have questions. 9 o'clock, you haven't heard anything, not good. They're probably talking to someone else. But even that said, you never know, because I've had them call 3 hours later and go, we really like your offer, Eric, but they're just stressed out. It's such a big decision. They need to sleep on it. We'll let you know tomorrow. You know, it's just hard to read, but you build up a relationship already with this listing agent. You were courteous. You did your pre-inspection. You did everything by the book. You asked questions. You always were really nice to them. Well, that also can weigh into a multiple offer, because if you're up against an agent that they absolutely don't like, they've had really bad dealings with them, and they know that you're great to work with already to get the sense and feeling, they can say to their client, well, I know with this agent, we'll get closed and it'll be smooth. This agent, I know, is a hassle, does some, I think, shady things, and I don't think he'll probably be very stressful. What are you going to do as a seller? Well, let's kind of go with the agent you like. But if you lose, sometimes they'll email you, and sometimes they call. If they call, I'll say, well, thank you much. I understand we lost, but can you help me educate my buyer so that we are better the next time we go up on a multiple? Where did we lose? Were our terms bad? Were we just way out of the ballpark with escalation? They might say, Eric, it was just all cash. They waived everything. Okay, I get that. So now you can go back to your buyer. You're being a good agent. You're educating them. You're saying, hey, we did the best we could, but we lost out. It was all cash. Waived everything. They're closing in 2 weeks. I mean, cash usually wins. But if it wasn't cash, they might say, well, we just had others and you just didn't escalate high enough. You were kind of locked out right then. Oh, okay. Can you kind of help me there? Did it escalate way over price or just a little over the price? No, Eric, it escalated way over the price. Oh, okay. Would you say it went over 500? Yeah. Oh, whoa, way over. Okay, like over 525? No. Okay, great. Thanks for helping me there. Was there something about our terms that was bad? They're not telling you what it's sold for, but because you've already been a nice guy, they're going to help you educate your client. Because to be the agent who says, sorry, you lost, let's keep looking, you might end up with a buyer who keeps running the same damn offer over and over again, and you're like, we're losing, we're losing, we're losing. Whereas if you get that report back from the agent, you can go back to him and say, hey, where we're losing out is everybody's waiving the inspection like us, but other people are waiving financing. And I know you're not comfortable with it, and that's fine. We'll just keep trotting along. But maybe you need to go back to your broker and say, have I been through a full underwriting so I know there's no questions that I can close, so I feel confident to waive my financing? And if your guy says we don't do full underwriting until you get a mutual contract, well, I know some brokers who do full underwriting. You might want to talk to them so you can be more competitive in the market. They might say, hey, they released all their earnest money to us non-refundable right up front. Go back to your buyer and say, this is where we lost. We didn't release the earnest money. I know that's really important to you. That's why I wanted you to have that talk with your lender about waiving financing and if you release earnest money, which is in my template. It tells them, go talk to your lender about this. But that way you're educating them so that, it might take them 4 or 5 times to bat before they get a house, but you've got to keep them in the game. Because the buyer is going to be totally depressed losing. And that's a very dangerous spot for you in your relationship because, one, they could be hearing from some other voice out there. Well, why are you with that agent? My agent's amazing. He got me right into a house on my first multiple offer. Really? Let's talk to him. And tell him you have no client. Or they might go, well, we just feel like we can't compete in this market at all, and that we're just going to have to step away and maybe look at this in another year or two and keep saving money. I don't want you to do that. I want you to buy now. So what am I going to do? I got to say, hey, we didn't get this house, but you got to remember, it takes a while on this market to get a house. You're no different than any other buyer, but what I do know is this house wasn't yours because it wasn't the right house. The right house is out there. I know it because when you get it, you're going to go, wow, this is so much better than those other homes. I'm glad that it took us time. So you got to keep them pumped up. And the other thing, if they say, well, we're going to just step back and reevaluate, send them houses, man. Say, hey, let's get back out there. Let's go look at a house. This one just popped up. It's everything you wanted. Get them back out looking with you. You want to get that going again. You don't want to lose them. And if you're with a client, you've lost 3 homes, trust me, they start questioning things. And the way they're not going to question things is they're going to go, well, we're learning and we're realizing where we're losing on the multiples rather than the agent who says, oh, we lost, but you're not educating them on the multiple as to what would do better for them. Because if you're educating along the way, they're going to be sticking with you because they're going to go, okay, they're in there, they're finding out the information we need to know and understand so that we know what we need to do. So does that kind of help you? Now it's a lot more on multiples? Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. And he wasn't pre-approved. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he can't get a pre-approval. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Well, you brought up a good point there. One, don't go working with a client, showing them a lot of homes give them a courtesy of like, let's go out, we'll look at a couple homes, and you can kind of say, hey, I get to feel how you're working, you get to feel how I'm working. I really enjoy this. I want to continue searching with you and really amp it up here, but I need to have a pre-approval in my hand. Yeah, but that's a different state, different laws. Yeah. Whenever they say, yeah, I have a pre-approval, I say, well, send it over because I need it in your file so I have it ready to go. And I also need to know your lender so I can let them know I'm your agent because we're going to be needing to be in communication throughout. And then if they don't, then I go, well, who is your lender? I'll just call them. And then if they don't, hey, indicators are, why am I wasting my time with you? And then at that point, like even a buyer consult, if I'll say to them right up front, are you pre-approved? If they say yes, I'll say who with, because I want to know if it's a lender I like or not. Because if they say, oh, my lender's in Texas, I would have said right then, oh, well, I need to let you know in our market here, if you have an out-of-state lender, you're not going to be looked at as strong as a buyer in a multiple offer as a buyer who's with a local lender that we all know is true and closes. So I would recommend you talk to these 2 different lenders out here I know that are local and close and compare them with your person in Texas. because I want to make sure you have everything to be in the best position to win. And I know having Texas will not help you. See, you just need to dig and ask and get more thorough. Foreigners, you brought up a good thing. Foreigners will come here and think, oh, yeah, I have a down payment and I can get a loan. It's a lot harder for a foreigner who's just come to America to get a loan because they have no social security number. They have no credit in the US. They have to build up credit. And I think that's what's happening with your client from China. Yes, you have enough to put 30% down, but they have no history of you in America that you're good on credit. And they're not going to do it. I have a number of foreigners who've come across from Canada and they're spending 6 months building credit up here so that they can get a loan. And I'm not showing them anything prior because, and this is the other thing, if someone says they don't have a pre-approval, I'll say, well, what do you think you can afford? And they'll tell you, oh yeah, I'm going to buy 700,000. Say, well, okay, that's great. I'd love to show you 700, but we got to get you pre-approved first. Because when you're pre-approved, I want you to get pre-approved for the most amount of money they'll give you. I'm not saying that's how much money you're going to use, but I'm saying you want the most because we might need that as a little help down the road if you suddenly decide you do want to spend 25,000 more, or we're in a multiple. But once they say you're approved to the most, then you need to talk to them about what you want your monthly loan payment, and then they can narrow it down. Because you're telling me here today you're going to spend 700,000, and that could very well be the fact. But if it comes back after you have all that talk about mortgage payments and the loans, you might come back to me in a week and say, I know I said I was going to do 700,000, but actually we don't want to go over 625. Well, if I've only been showing you 700,000 and now you're seeing homes that are 625, you're not going to be happy. You're going to always think about the 700,000. I want you to be looking in the price point you want to pay because we can always go up higher if you want to later, but let's start where you want to pay because you need to see what is at that price point, not at a higher price point. You'll be too depressed. I mean, you just kind of throw that all out at them. They've got to do their groundwork. Because, and I would talk with Eric at Movement Mortgage. They're unveiling a new program. He was talking about to help with foreigners get their approvals quicker and easier than they have been in the past. So, yeah, without a FICO score and stuff. So your guy would be perfect for that because if he doesn't have any credit, he talks to Eric, he might actually get a pre-approval. But then your case with the Chinese, you're going up against totally different cultural ideal of how money's dealt with and trusting people. Because my understanding is in their culture, they don't trust anyone in negotiations. Mhm. Right, 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 right. Right, because that comes down to they're probably nervous about, well, what are they going to do with this information? That's where you just have to like try to talk them through it and see if they'll do it, and if they trust you. Um, because like even if you're going to do a cash offer, I tell people, oh, I'm all cash. Well, rather than pre-approval, I'll go, okay, you need to give me copies of your latest statements. Show me that all that cash is readily available, so that we know that we can write an offer. Well, I'll show you when it's there. Well, actually, I need to see it now because I want to make sure we're doing the right thing. And all they need to do is show you the latest statement of where the fund's in. It could be in 4 different funds. It's fine. But it has to have their name on it and the institution. And if there's any account number on it, have it blacked out. Because you're going to have to show that with your purchase sale contract. If you're all cash, show them you got cash ready. Foreigners, You say, I have lots of cash. I always ask them, really up front, another good question is say, is your money in the U.S. already? And if they're like, well, no, it's still back in China or Europe, you need to talk to figure out how much you're allowed to transfer over now because your laws might not allow you just to throw over here $900,000. You might have to do it over a period of time, certain dollar amounts. They may only let you pull so much out every 2 weeks. You know, you need to know what that is so that we make sure you will close on the house if you want it. That's something you need to consider there too. But yeah, it's interesting. So, are you still working with them, or did they just quit?
Well, they
Hmm.
and
Right. Well, now you want to keep in touch for 4 months. You want to keep little reminders. I would recommend talking to Eric though. Make an appointment, talk to Eric, and say, hey, I'm this foreigner, and we didn't have a FICA score. And now he's having to wait 4 more months. He's being told, but do you think you could get him in soon? Because I hear you have this new program. Because he might be able to do something even better, and then you'll look really good to your client. Eric, he's our movement mortgage rep. His office is just right over there on the other side. No, he's on the other side. But yeah, Keller Williams, downtown, we have a movement mortgage person in office. We have a movement mortgage office here. They're good to know because these guys can turn loans around and close fast.
question.
Yeah.
Actually, three questions. One is potentially so they don't require a pre-approval, just that the bank statements alone.
Yeah, there is no pre-approval when you're cash. The pre-approval is you show, here, I have cash. And here's where my cash is, so you know I really do have cash, so I can transfer this to escrow and close.
Got it. Second thing is, my client actually touched upon this, is showing me a bunch of funds. They're like expecting funds to come probably in.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have a recommended plan, but I don't have a problem.
Right.
However, I don't want to just keep on wasting a bunch of my time. How do I make sure that I'm severing the relationship as
Right.
well as we want to nurture it?
Right. I would just say to them, if it's going to take you 4 months to get your money here, um, let's look at the ones that just are really, really exciting to you. But chances are the homes we're looking at now are not going to be available, and there's going to be a lot more homes available in 4 months because you're going to be in spring. So um, let's keep the search going because it sounds, keep touching. And I'm happy to take you out and show you, you know, one or two a week that really are catching your eye. But I don't want to get your hopes up that these will probably be available in 4 months. If it's really high end, though, it could be available in 4 months. They don't always sell that quickly. So that's why, yeah, we can look. And if they really like it, you can say, okay, well, I'll keep my eye on this and follow it and see if it's still active when we get closer. So then we can be, serious about it.
One of the things about looking at the price points, I was thinking to myself, this is something that's like say 1.5. It's not a lot of products. They want to initially make it up, say,
They won't get it.
or even 1.4, then have this cost. There's not much. I'm just starting myself. Otherwise, this is how much.
Well, here, okay. And I understand that because we're dealing with a lot of different cultures in Seattle, and some cultures really feel strongly that you don't offer them full price, you lowball. That's how we do business. They may lowball and they may learn. They always look at them and go, okay, I'm just going to tell you right now, you're risking insulting the seller to where they probably won't even reply to you. They won't even counter to you because they'll be like, you're not serious because you're way off. And the reality here is you got to ask yourself, buyer, if you were the seller, why would you drop it from 1.5 to 1,350? Why wouldn't you just say, okay, if no one's buying at 1.5, let's lower it to 1.475 or 1.5? Because probably we're going to get a buyer in here before we get to 1,350. So I will write it if you want, but I'm just being upfront. The seller may not respond and get insulted, and then let's say you play the wait game, he'll remember that, and they'll be really tough on you. Or so you say, okay, I'll wait him out and let him drop it slowly. Well, it might get to the price now that you say, okay, I'll pay that, but now there might be another buyer, and guess what? He'll probably go with the other buyer because he's going to be, I'm not selling to you because you offered me that low ball and you've just been waiting. And so you're the last person I'm going to sell to. So you've got to think like this. And the best way to look at it is to always say, whether you're working with a seller or buyer, to say, well, I just want you to put yourself in their shoes and think about it from that position, this situation. How would you react? So you say to the buyer, if you're the seller and you just got that, what would you say? You know? Exactly. You're negotiating back and forth and they're all heated. Suddenly I say to my seller, well, put yourself in the buyer's shoe. Come on. You're paying $1.5 million and they want a hot tub included. Right.
It's almost like always like, don't get the price for what it's worth. Just always go.
Right. But you know what?
And then have the satisfaction.
Right. But they also have to understand that everybody has to feel a win-win. Like, okay, you're getting 1.5. Let them win by leaving your hot tub in the backyard. You can always buy a new hot tub. They feel they won something, but you really got what you wanted. Okay, win-win. You got to work with that. With anyone, any culture, you got to say it's got to be a win-win for both sides, or it's not going to work. And if they say, well, this just isn't how we do it, I mean, it's a hard conversation, but I turn around to them and I go, well, I understand that's not how you do it back in your country, but you're in this country now, and you're in a seller's market. So you are going to need to probably think about doing things that are more negotiated the way they are here if you really want to get it. I do know that there's some stubborn ones out there and they just won't do it and they'll just lowball, lowball, lowball. But I also know that they just lose out, lose out, lose out. So finally one day they either find something that nobody wants that will do a lowball, or they come to terms.
When they lowball,
Mm-hmm. That's not insulting.
Okay, they can have an escalation clause in there as well.
Oh, you mean, okay, so you're telling it's a multiple offer,
Yeah.
but you guys are feeling it may be, well, okay, the only reason, if you feel a home is very overpriced, but you're in a multiple offer, first thing I always say to my buyer is I just say, look, you're in a multiple offer, figure you're now offering full price, even though we thought no one was coming, we're going to offer less because we felt stronger that was a better price. Well, that's out the window now because now you're competing with buyers who are all saying, well, no, I'm happy and I'll pay this. I'm happy, I'll pay this. So we got to anticipate you're going to pay at least price, full price, or more. So now we have to decide where we want to go. Sometime, and then I try to encourage them, let's put full price and escalate. We don't want to upset a seller. You know, So you put in 50,000 less, but you're still going to escalate 100,000 over, and now you're going to the seller. Some sellers may not care, but others might go, "What? That's insulting me because you didn't at least offer what I offered." And I got two other identical offers that started at that price, or one who actually came in with a price higher and then escalated off. These guys are, I like their attitude better. Um, but I mean, you can lowball it and escalate above it, and maybe it'll win because they're still going to pay more in price. And the one thing you really want to make sure your buyer understand, and a lot of buyers think, okay, well, I said it escalate to 500, and then you go, hey, guess what? You won, you got it, it's 500, and they go, whoa, wait, don't want to wait a minute, I thought I get to think about it now, and we get to tell them if we're willing to pay 500. No, sorry, you put in the contract you're willing to pay to 500. You need to realize that when I send that over, if they don't change anything in the contract and all they do is escalate the price to 500 and they have this offer, you just bought it for 500. So you have to accept that. You're putting everything on the table and you are willing to do that. They will not come back and negotiate on price. So if you're thinking you don't want to pay 5, then we don't escalate to 5. And when they say how high to escalate, I go, that will be your decision, but I will help you figure it out by showing you where I think things are escalating around here. But you've got to come to terms with at what price, if someone paid $1 more and they got it and you lost, that you're not going to go, I should have paid $1. Because then that's telling me maybe you should escalate higher. But if you're telling me you're willing to escalate only to 500, and if they pay 05, you're like, that's fine, they can have it. I'm not willing to pay a dime more. Then that's what we escalate to.
Like homes when you're not able to find
Right?
nothing in the 3 mile periphery.
Well, you in a multiple? Or is it pre-sale?
It's not pre-sale.
It's a resale.
It's a resale.
Okay. Where? Okay, you got to spread out. Make a bigger parameter to look for homes.
Yeah, I just went all the way up to like I think 5 miles. For that square footage, that price.
Right, but here's what my question is: are you reading the detailed sheet, seeing if any are advertising their built green? None are. Because if one says they were built green, then that's a good one to start looking at closer. If none of them are built green and they're at this price, you can say, this is a price of a non-built green home. We know the cost of building your home is more expensive than the cost of building those. Because you're still looking for newer construction. You're probably trying to find things built in the last 5 years or last 3 years to compare. And you definitely want to look at homes built last year that just are closing now, that are brand new to compare to yours. And if they're not built green, you know it's going to be more expensive. This one's 2 years out.
For years, it'll be a century. Almost initially 1918.
Right. But you got to get over the 1918. If they knock 1918 to the ground, they're getting a 2017 home. It's not a 1918 home. Right. But they may have done that only because of laws. Because some of the laws state that you can, if you like, leave one wall remaining of the old house and then you build up this whole new house around it, they'll permit and allow it to be done. Whereas if you knock it clear to the ground and start from scratch, it might be a more difficult permit process you have to follow. You may have different rules you have to go under. So sometimes they do that strategically. But you got to get out of the mindset that this is a 1918 home. Sure, they left a few pieces of it, but when you walk through it, does it look like a brand new 2017 construction?
Torn down, rebuilt.
I would look for homes 2010. But again, a home that sold in 2010 is not going to be selling for that price now. You need to try to focus the last 90 days. And seriously, if you're just like I see nothing, then you focus on the last 6 months. And then you expand your search out. Yeah, I mean, I had a home, 5-star built green, and in Ravenna neighborhood of Seattle. 1.5. We paid 1.5. Where it was very on the high end for the neighborhood. Things were selling 1.4. At 1.5, it was probably going to be the highest price thing to sell in that neighborhood, but it was 5-star built green. So we sat down and I said, because they said, do you think I'm appraised? I go, yeah, I do, because read it. I mean, if they're smart as a 5-star built green, they might actually have a detailed sheet somewhere of everything unique that they did that other homes don't have. You want the appraiser to see that. They got to factor that in. Ours, it was like over the top, all the stuff they did for 5-star. Plus, they did some extra things because these guys were just techie. I mean, when I read that, I was like, hey, you guys, none of these homes around here they're selling for 100 grand less even have that. Any of this. And I just said, you got to realize it's 5-star built green. People realize that it costs more and there's better value in it. And I said, you have to pay for that. Basically, if you build a home and you go through normal permit, they'll give you all the permits, go build, and then at some point, they'll come out and verify electricity was done correctly. And then they say, yeah, pass. But they're not looking they're just seeing if you did it up to code. Built green, there's different levels. There's like 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. Then it goes up to LEED status. Each one of those levels, you have to do more and more to that house to make it at that level. So rather than come out and say, yeah, electricity is to code, they're going to come out and say, yeah, it's to code, but you also did this extra things that we need to do on the electricity because it's certain brackets are used or this is used. They're just making sure that you're doing things that are to the code of built green because the code of built green is higher standards to build that home to make it more energy efficient. When you get into LEED status, it's like they're repurposing certain things into the home for recycling. It's just they have a lot more. They have many more permits that they have to check off the box with. I don't have an exact number. No, there's no. Okay. Any other questions? Did you get something out of this?
I understand your format.
Yeah. No, because when I tried to do a structured class beginning to end, it wasn't working because if I tried that, it was like you would come in and I'd say, oh, okay, here's a sheet. Here's all the forms we're going to go over. And if you're coming every other week, by the time we get through all those forms, you'll be coming here maybe 3 months. And it was just too long and drawn out. And to get you to go through the whole list. And most agents were like out of here within a few classes because they were just started to read them. And honestly, if I had to sit here and go, today we're going to go through Form 21 again, I explain, I'd be like, okay, now I'm going to cut my wrist because I have like gone through this speech, 40 times. I wanted it to be more of like this, a round table. You come in with questions and you might learn from them things you never thought about to even ask. And that's why I create the videos, and that's why I'm brand new. I always tell you, go watch the videos. Well, no, and you are, and I understand that, so that's why I bring it up again, because you probably forgot. But that will be the best tool for you right now, is to watch those videos. Because when you do, have a piece of paper, write Form 21, and as you're going through it, stop the video, write notes. Okay, kind of get that, but I need to talk a little bit more of that with Eric. And you come to class and say, hey, I'm not understanding this. Can you explain it better? Okay? Good.
Great to meet you. Oh, this is a weekly email that yeah, this is the training thing that I put in.
So is this where they can go and listen?
Yeah, they can. It's no, I have to update that.
He needs to update it because this is his ongoing project to me to make me people can listen. If
Get
Hurry, it's low. You told me I had enough juice.
you did before the class ended. So
So eventually, you will be able to do that. Hey, I just want to listen into him because I'm out looking at houses, but I want to hear their conversation.
see users Eric runs on.
I just wanted this for.
Oh, okay. It's just
Yeah, with the AVA facial action going on out there, like you're being. You're welcome. Like getting spritzed all the time. Because it's so dry. Are you running on?
Doing, Erica.
You want on now?
Oh, it's 1.2 gigs. It's huge. The size, the file size, the recording size.
Oh.
So I'll copy it to my thing so that I can upload it to Google later, so that you can continue with your work.
Oh, okay.
Sure. So Swan Lee just had great things to tell about you, Erica. Nevia or someone that you spoke to. Yeah, and she's all super pumped and on top of things. I saw a mail from Drake Remlinger, who was my downline.
Did she join?
No, she's going to take the exam in January. Drake said, after much thought about real estate, I've decided not to continue with Keller Williams anymore.
Ooh.
Drake Remlinger, my downline. Yeah, you didn't. That's unfortunate. Rick Remlinger is the guy who had this 1.3 mil listing and stuff and all that. Tracy did.
Well, I just talked to Larissa. Larissa says that usually he wants us to put something together, and then he'll like kind of fine tune it and put it in the legal format. He sent us like a small little paragraph, and then we can send it to him. Oh, perfect. Oh yeah, even better. Perfect. Okay, because he's not gonna want this. He's gonna want like an actual. You know. Yeah, send it to me, and then we'll send that to him, and then. Thank you. Well, if I don't see you, have a happy Christmas, and we'll see you.
You're going to be here for another 20 minutes, Eric?
Does it take 20 minutes?
No, it just came all the way from 1 hour and 30 minutes down to 20 minutes.
Like this?
No, I'm just loading it onto my Google.
No, right.
Yeah, if you're going to be for 20 minutes,
Yeah,
you know.
I can-
Yeah, you
I can work.
Yeah, you can work on it.
Yeah, I can work on what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
you can minimize that.
Okay.
So, yeah, all of a sudden,
I'm gonna need you guys need my help. Oh, nice time.
What? She doesn't want to know us?
She does, and just that she was.
I didn't even know you were married.
Her work day. Does she work on a Friday night after 5?
She's into the dental business, so and she's running a dental.
Is she the dentist?
She's a dental assistant.
Ah.
You were a dentist.
No big
deal. Yeah.
You send that? You send that? Um,
Chardonnay, right, Eric?
Yeah.
I'm just like, Eric, how dare you?
I like rosé. Huh? I'll drink Chardonnay. It's just when they have a ton of oak in it. It's kind of like the
Does the
oak.
Chardonnay have oak in it?
They inject it.
I don't. I like the Chardonnay. Just kind of shy. I don't know where this experience comes from. But let me know on like, I'm gonna start just like. Oh, you can like do a couple of. Looking at that. Thank you. Merry Christmas, have a good one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Just sometimes. Oh, let's feel that.
That's how I feel.
So,
Get your license, right? Well, I've had, now people are like, oh, you know, I want to go, I had this girl.
Good.
Or maybe
Okay, let me finish this. There isn't one, I thought. Are we having one Thursday? Seattle's not on Wednesday. Seattle canceled this weekend.
No, I think there's too much going on. Like, first of all, it's gonna probably starting to like dwindle down. Like, a little bit. Well, it's Seattle. I'm sorry.
I thought
Give you
Tracy.
your card now.
Oh, I thought Tracy. Wait, I asked Tracy if she wants a team meeting. Is what I would do. Because I thought she said last week no. I don't know. Ask her. What do you mean?
I read.
Oh, because it's still in there.
I rented it here.